everybody and welcome along to a brand new video where today I'm taking a look back at the second Doctor Who Dalek movie. It's Dalek Invasion of Earth 2150 AD. Not a lengthy title at all, a very catchy, easy to remember title of course. So yes, this was the second Dalek movie to feature Peter Cushing as Doctor Who, not the Doctor. Has to be said that ended up on the big screen, this film back in 1966. A film that I think is slightly better remembered than the first one. Certainly I enjoyed this one more than the first one for a variety of reasons. I think it's just a better overall story to work from, a better script. I think it all just works a bit better, as I'm going to explain. So yes, this story obviously is a remake of the Dalek Invasion of Earth, the 1964 TV story featuring William Hartnell as the Doctor, where the Daleks invade Earth in the future, in the year 2164 in the TV programme, but 2150 in this film, probably because 2150 sounds better than 2164 for a title, I'd imagine, is why they did that. And so it's a good script to work off because Dalek Invasion of Earth was always a good script and always one that was quite popular with fans, so there was always just a better material, I think, to start from. And more scope to explore as well in a film. And so I think that it's one of the biggest things I notice about this film compared to the first one is just the kind of increased scale I think we get of this story. Because with Doctor Who and the Daleks, it's pretty much solely studio filmed, with all of the Thal, all of Skaro, the planet Skaro is studio. Pretty much all of the Dalek City is also studio, I think, and so there's very little kind of location filming to just give that extra scale to the programme. Not the programme, to the film. Get so used to Doctor Who being a programme. And so I think that's really, really noticeable in this story, where sort of straight from the off, when we get to futuristic London, we end up in some sort of big destroyed Docklands quarry area. Which with lots of big vistas of London and everything, and just covering loads of different areas of London as well, going through the countryside to Bedfordshire, it's probably not Bedfordshire, but just those sort of countryside shots we got as well, then the van crashing into all the Daleks out on location. It's just, there's that much more location filming to add the extra scale to the story, I think, which just makes a big, big difference. And then even the quarry right at the end, or the sort of mining area right at the end in Bedfordshire is really, really impressive as well. So I think that just makes a big difference to my enjoyment of this story, that it just feels a lot wider, a lot vaster, a lot broader in the sort of content we're going to see throughout this film. I think it really works quite effectively in that regard. Of course, one of the great additions to this film is the wonderful Bernard Cribbins playing Tom the policeman, who accidentally stumbles across TARDIS, not to the TARDIS, remember, it's TARDIS, and gets trapped in, not really trapped in there, he suddenly just gets whisked away and the Doctor Who doesn't seem to care at all. It's just like, oh, hello, you're a dude, and you get in the TARDIS and fly away, and then he arrives in 2150 and just seems pretty chill about it. He never seems to really think twice, which, yeah, there's a lot of lack of character development and stuff in this film. Like, there is no anything behind any of these characters. There's nothing really. But the only thing is Tom the policeman getting his getting his criminals right at the end of the film. That's about the most we get of any sort of character development. But apart from that, he doesn't even think twice about the fact he's in 2150 and the Earth has been destroyed. Like, it just gets forgotten. The various sort of human characters we see in the rebel group also don't get very much development apart from being a character that's rebelling against the Daleks. That's pretty much the sole sort of extent of their character they get. The same with Susan and Louise. Neither of them really get any character apart from being relations to the Doctor and getting into scrapes and stuff. They don't really get much to do. So I think that's where this is lacking very much compared to the TV version, is there is no character development at all in any of the characters really. Which is to some degree understandable. You've got half the runtime compared to how long this story was on TV. And what people want to see is the big action, explosions, Daleks, all that sort of stuff, not some quiet character moments throughout the film. So I completely understand it, but it's very, very noticeable throughout this film that it's very, very plot-centric, that it doesn't really matter about the characters particularly. So that's a downfall, but I can kind of forgive it given the sort of context and the reasoning behind doing it. And certainly focusing on the plot works really, really well, and focusing on the action scenes, I think, is the biggest point of this film. Some of the best stuff is the big action sort of shootout scenes when you get the rebels attacking the Dalek ship early on in the film. That's brilliant. You can clearly see a lot of budget's gone into that. The amount of explosions and smoke and flame and fire, the amount of extras involved in that scene, it's fantastic. It's really genuinely exciting and spectacular. I'm sure the kids would have loved seeing that back when it was in cinemas in the 60s, the sort of loud explosions and music and people running around and Daleks firing away and the humans firing away and attacking the Daleks. I'm sure it looks incredible in the film on a TV, but I think it must have looked even more incredible in a cinema. And I think those are the sort of aspects that really, really work so effectively throughout this film. Any of the big action scenes are just seem exciting and feel like they've invested a lot of time and money into making these bits as good as they can possibly be. Once again, it's nice to see a variety of colourful looking Daleks with the sort of red, the silver and blue ones, the black and grey, black and gold ones. There's just a variety of different Daleks, which is great to be able to do in colour on the big screen. I'm sure that looked fantastic. And I don't feel like they do a huge amount in this story. Obviously, they're just the sort of the runners of the plot rather than really trying to kill loads of people, particularly. But they are doing the whole robotisation of people and sort of running the Grand Master Plan as well. I kind of was a little bit concerned for the Dalek operators towards the end of this film when we get to the mining place over in Bedfordshire and we're on the sort of Dalek's control room or whatever it is, and they have these really thin sort of slopes they go up and down, which aren't much more than a Dalek's width wide. And so if the Dalek operators slightly slipped, they would tumble over the side. It just looks a little bit of a health and safety nightmare, to be honest. I'm a bit concerned about these Daleks. They look like they might accidentally kill themselves, which was just quite a funny moment that I saw there. One of the other familiar faces to be able to see in this film, which was rather not a surprise, I didn't remember it, but it's still nice to see, is Philip Maddock, who of course is one of the most well-renowned villains of classic Doctor Who, having played around I think 5 or 6 different characters through the classic era, including the Warlord in the War Games, which I just watched recently, and Morbius in the Brain of Morbius. So he's had some pretty major roles. And to see him on the big screen in this film, before essentially he did pretty much all of the Doctor Who, he might have done one Doctor Who story before then. I can't remember if the Crotons was his first story or not. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments below. But yes, he did this film, and classic, fantastic sort of villainous character who's just sort of turning the Doctor on his own onto the Daleks, even though he's pretending that he's not and then he just is. He's just sort of very perfectly calmly villainous, as Philip Maddock usually is in his villainous roles. And he just does such a brilliant job of it in this film as well. It's just nice to see that sort of familiar classic Who figure as well, and see him in colour on the big screen as well. It just adds that little bit extra to it when you sort of know it. I was pleasantly surprised by the model shots and the models of the sort of Dalek spaceship and things like that throughout this story, in that they looked pretty decent. There are a couple of shots where I could see some strings holding up the Dalek spaceship who was meant to be flying away. But apart from that, it really did not look too bad, and I did not think I was watching a film from 1966 with sort of CGI, well not CGI, but model effects like that. It really didn't look too bad at all, I thought. And so yeah, there were moments during this film where I thought, this could be pretty recent. I mean, the picture quality obviously looks fantastic given it's been upscaled to Blu-ray, but it does look really, really good. And I could almost be convinced this film was made maybe 20 years ago. It really looks quite impressive. And so I was just quite pleasantly surprised about that, because that's not the sort of thing I particularly thought of this film in the past. I had seen this film a fair amount of times before, I think, when it used to be showed on Watch and what was probably UK TV Gold before that in the UK. I've definitely seen this one maybe 2 or 3 times in the past. Not for a very, very long time now, but I'd definitely seen it before. And I almost, I think, remembered this film more than the TV version of the Dalek Invasion of Earth for some of the scenes, like the scene early on when the Doctor and Tom go into the warehouse. I remember that more from this movie than from the TV show. A lot of the stuff towards the end of the film and the sort of mining setting, I remember much more the film version than the TV version. I think it's just kind of connecting the colour, I think, more than anything else, is just a more vibrant, iconic thing to keep into your mind when you're watching this sort of film. Compared to the black and white TV version, of course. So I don't think I necessarily prefer this to the TV version. I think a lot about this is it's more, maybe more exciting, maybe more spectacular, got more colour, got a lot more budget in it, and all those aspects just make it better. But then probably the plot, character development wise, is probably better in the TV version. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts, and in many ways I can enjoy both, because I know that generally both of these films get quite a lot of hate, and I think even the critical reception at the time was not particularly good, and I can understand that. But ultimately, watching it, I do not think it's that awful. I think it's very much, particularly this one. I think this one is definitely better than Doctor and the Daleks. I enjoyed this one significantly more, and watching it last night, the hour and 20 minutes just flew by. It was over in no time. I thought, wow, it's probably blitzing through. Whereas the first one did drag a little bit. It was a little bit slow, but this, it always felt like as soon as it was going to start getting a little bit slow, something else happened. The Doctor got captured by the Daleks or something, or there was a big shootout and explosions and whatnot. There was just something to keep it interesting throughout the film, which I thought just really engaged me and made for an ultimately very enjoyable hour and a half. And I think in the end, that's what it's all about, really. Was this an enjoyable hour and a half to watch? The answer for me is yes, so therefore I enjoyed it. It doesn't mean it's the greatest thing ever, but it was enjoyable, and I can completely understand it would have been very, very exciting and enjoyable for kids at the time in a big cinema, colour Daleks, seeing shots of London and Earth and in the future, and just the big explosions and shootout scenes and the Robo-Men and just and seeing Doctor Who and everything, it just would have been such a spectacular, exciting watch, I'm sure. So yeah, I can very much see the positive of this film, I think. But I think that's pretty much all I can say about Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD. I can't remember the title. It's that interesting. And so that's it for this couple of mini reviews of the 2 Dalek films. I'm also going to do a little video in the near future about the possibility of a 3rd Dalek film there was back in the 1960s, because this wasn't the only 2 they originally planned. But yes, that's for my next video. But for now, guys, let me know down in the comments below what you think of this film. Do you enjoy it? Do you think this is better or worse than the first one? Do you think this is better than worse, or the TV version of Dalek Invasion of Earth? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments below. But other than that, guys, remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Goodbye.